the Hypatia podcast. I'm Tara Honora, and today I'm with priestess and author Jamie Della from her home in Northern California. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Tara. I'm so thrilled to be here with you.
Me too. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I feel like I'm in your living room every time we chat. Because you set up the scene. Like today you have your cozy fire in your wood burning stove, and that's also an altar in your home, a sacred hearth, right?
Right. So this is my sacred hearth where I do the hearth magic kappas, and it's my altar for Bridget, and this is my favorite image of her that is up above with a bottle of blackberry cordial that I poured on her hill. And the hill of Tara.
Oh, you got it from the hill of Tara?
Yes, I got this from the hill of Tara from the artist Courtney Davis, who lives there or has a studio there. I bought it from him. He sold me the vial that I filled at her well that was on the hill.
My mom named me after her friend Tara, and then the plantation on Gone with the Wind, which was named after the hill of Tara, because the O'Haras were Irish.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool.
Let's see. All right. So one reason I have had you here today is because the Hypatia podcast honors authors and women leaders in spirituality so that we can discuss words by women for women. And
I love that. I love that, Tara. I love that.
Thank you.
I love your mission. It fills me with such joy. I think that's why when you and I talk, our hearts are so in sync. I feel like we're a kid on a playground together when we chat.
Yes, you bring out my inner child, which can... And so I enjoy having fun because right now the world is just so hard. We need to be able to laugh and talk and find some warmth in the world. And I really think conversations between women and words that we write are like a light in the world. Yes. And so that's why I ask all my guests to either light a candle or have some kind of flame with them. I'm going to light my candle if I can. There you go. And you've got your hearth.
Mm-hmm.
And what item do you have to burn today? What smell did you bring?
I brought a few things. They're all scattered around me, but what I have right here in front of me is a very basic cinnamon broom that I bought from Trader Joe's. So these are the ones that they have on sale during the holidays. And I just decorated mine. And so when I feel like I needed some added protection, which is one of the, protection is one of the things. Amorous love, of course, is another. Not to say that we haven't made love here right in front of the fire. I'm just saying. But today, it's not that. Today, I broke off a few strands of the cinnamon broom because for protection. And I love what you said, how we have to reach out for those moments of joy. Mm-hmm. And I want to protect my positiveness. I'm normally a very, very positive person, and I have been living here in isolation at these mountains in a town of 700 people when I'm used to living surrounded by my big Mexican family and in a populated area that's busy and full of culture. And so I've been low lately, like a lot of people, and I've been isolated now. This is about 3.5 years. So it's been quite a long time that I spend most of my days inside, and it's new for me. And so today I woke up with a positive energy and a really lighthearted, playful fluttering in my heart. And I want to protect that. I want to protect that.
Yeah, I love it because I woke up today and it was sunny and it was 60 degrees. Like the sky was clear last night. So I got to see the moon and all the stars. Like my star guide was out in Orion. It's also called Rigel. But the main.
Yes, I have Beetlejuice. That's my star. So we're even in the same constellation. I didn't know.
Oh my goodness. So let's do that.
Okay.
You can burn your lovely cinnamon.
I'm going to burn my cinnamon.
And I'm going to burn this bay leaf. Now, part of that is for protection today, but all the time, each episode of I have a lovely little flame going here on the bay leaf, and ooh, you've got a nice hot red coal log in there.
I do.
So I also burn this bay leaf because the priestesses at Delphi would burn bay when they purified themselves before the day they were going to do their divinations and be an oracle. And also the poets in Greece would wear laurel bay leaf crowns. So for bay on the Hypatia podcast represents how often women authors are channeling their words.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I'll burn this then for passion, play, and purpose.
Oh, very good.
You wanted the flame.
It's gorgeous. I love, they're like, what, 8 inches high? I'm describing it for people who might only listen.
Yeah.
It's huge, like all kinds of flames, like 8 inches high. And you've got white and red coals down in the log. So it's been burning for a while.
Well, I actually keep a fire burning all the whole time. We don't let the coal baby go out.
Oh, wow. So, even in the summer?
No, just mostly in the winter. So, so here we're still, in winter. So we keep this, we keep it going all day, at least down to a coal baby. And then I blow on it like the old women at the fire to get it again. And so that if I have to restart it from total, like if it got down to the coals and I have to invite the flames back up, there's always a sacred purpose to that. It's an opportunity for me to ask and petition for an invocation with those flames. So I take every opportunity to do that.
That reminds me, last night I was doing the goddess Tara practice, and I was using my Moonstone Mala, and that was neat. I've got to see your Moonstone Mala too. And I was chanting, and I was about on maybe the 6th round. So I was trying to do 10 malas, and my hair started, it felt like my hair was standing up on end. My skin was tingly and tight, and I opened my eyes, and the smoke offering had caught fire, and flames were like shooting out of this little pot. Now I'm in a small efficiency apartment, so like I've got water sprinklers right over my altar and a smoke detector. So I'm like, tutari, so high, like I'm still chanting while I'm putting the lid on it.
Oh my gosh. I did that after one of our, wasn't the Wise Woman meeting, it was one of our other meetings. I'm trying to think of which one it was, with the Goddess Temple. And I put copal on too big of a chunk on the coal for Yamoja, who is my goddess for this year, that I'm really working with, and offerings and waters, and she always gets this as well. She's our daily hearth, and water is the other. So I'm kind of fire and rain right now, and I'm pointing up to her altar, like you guys can see this. So I'm sorry, I'm pointing to her altar, which is actually upstairs.
An altar on the wall too. It's by my front door.
Yes, so I have them all over this house. I have a Tara. She's pretty far away. One of these days I'm gonna send you her picture. But yeah, I did that same thing, and we have an Airbnb, and like it was billowing. I mean, billowing. The smoke alarm was gonna go off in both houses. I was like, oh my God. I took it outside on the patio, and it billowed even more. I mean, and then the smoke was trying to get back into the house. Like it literally, I had it out on the patio, this huge big potbelly cauldron with a charcoal at the bottom and a piece of copal that was probably an inch in diameter. And it was way too much power. And Yamosha loved it though. She was like, bring it on. Below the flames for me, darling.
And I loved how I felt all that power before like I opened my eyes and saw the flame. But then I was like, oh no, because the alarm system is hooked to all the units. So if my alarm goes off, everybody's alarm goes off.
See, well, that's what would happen, but it was only one other person. So it's just one phone call, not like 10 or 20 or whatever you'd have to do.
So I don't have it with me to show everyone, but it has like a lid I can put on it in case I need to put a fire out like really fast. And really, I think this is Paula Deen actually. It's like a Paula Deen brand little pot.
Oh, I see. Oh, I get
it. And I use it for my burn pot.
Oh, that's very cool.
And I set it on what's that when you dip stuff into like the cheese? Fondue. This is a fondue pot base.
A fondue pot. Oh my God, that's so perfect. Oh, you're very clever.
Nice. Okay. All right. So let's properly introduce you. So we're both priestesses in the Mount Shasta Goddess Temple out of Dunsmuir, California. And you're also an ordained shamanic priestess, an author of 9 books. And we'll be talking more about the Book of Spells today. I'm holding that one up for everyone to see. It's just gorgeous, by the way, with all the bronze designs and the deep blue.
Yeah, Sarah was the designer on that, and she just did a stunning job of paying attention and really listening to what it was that I wanted. And I felt like she really pulled out the personality and the grandness that I wanted for this book.
It's wonderful. I remember unboxing it and I was like, oh, it was like pulling a little magical tome out of the box, which is what it's supposed to be in a way.
Yeah. And then did you get the crack?
Yes. Oh, let's see. I think it's gone. Yeah, it's gone now, but crack open a good book is like on a hardback, the binding really snaps. And that's one thing I love about being a librarian.
Again. Yeah, I know. When I get my books now and I go to sign them, I open it so carefully and just sign right in here so that
so the people
just for that same sound. It's like if you know that crack of a book opening and you're the first, there's something really romantic that happens between you and that book, I think.
Kind of like when you get to open the bottle on New Year's.
Yeah, you get to
kind of exciting.
Oh, the champagne.
Yes, but it still has the new smell. It almost reminds me of catalog paper. You know how catalog paper has a little bit of a clay. They use really high quality paper.
What's really neat when that happens, as from an author perspective, is that it's basically showing trust. The publisher has trust in your book. Because they don't do this for every book. They couldn't afford to make nice paper for every book.
Right.
You know? So when they choose to invest in your book and have the color pages, you know, like here's the blue, and then there's like orange pages, and then this work on the back on this kind of stuff. That's kind of, it's a beautiful gesture.
All the intricate shapes.
Yeah. And, you know, I love that Sarah, the designer, she like hid what she knew were some magical shapes in there. And like, I just love that mystery. Like those, I was a kid that loved those books, like Choose Your Own Adventure. And you'd go, you know, like you'd have to find the clues and this.
It does too. Turn to page 12.
Yeah, exactly. And then finding those, and anything that had to do with finding like mysterious clues, you know what I mean? I think that's why Indiana Jones was so popular. Like, you know, I grew up in Orange County, so we went to Disneyland when that ride first started, and there was literally like hieroglyphics that you could read with a code on the way in. And That I love that idea of hidden messages in codes. I just love it.
So I have to say that the third Indiana Jones movie is one of my favorites because of the library scene. So, and I love it when they're finding the treasure, and as they're digging, the librarian, he's stamping the books, and so they'll like hit the floor with like the.
I don't remember this scene. I have to watch this. I have to watch this.
But we don't stamp books as much anymore for like the return dates. Everything's electronic now.
Yeah, so and that was another satisfying sound.
So now we like fight to be able to stamp the books because we
like the stamps and passports.
Kind of, yeah.
It's a new adventure, right? Each time a book is a new adventure.
So you have the Book of Spells. You've also written The Magic of Witchcraft and the Wicca Cookbook.
Well, actually, The Magic of Witchcraft is the subtitle for the book.
Oh,
no worries. It's the subtitle, but this is actually my 9th book. I didn't even bring them all here just because we were working on talking about this one. But yeah, I have the Wicca Cookbook, the Wicca Herbal, the Teen Spell Book, the Enchanted Diary, the the Fairy's Guide to Green Magic in the Garden, Rohelia's House of Magic, which is a young adult novel, Latina's Writers and Journalists book, and the Como Te Llamas Baby, the Hispanic Baby Name book. And then contributions in about 3 other anthologies.
And you've written for some periodicals like Sage Woman.
Yes, Sage Woman. And I have a column, Herbal Journeys for Witches in Pagan magazine. And I have, I even have Rebel Society is an online publication, as well as the Manifest Station is another one that's published my works. So those are some of the things that aren't always all witchy all the time, that they might be having to do with motherhood or some other aspect of life. I mean, of course, the magic always weaves its way in. But in some cases, it's just part of the backstory, not always the lead, the drive, or the purpose for the piece.
You're in the Eastern Sierras. Is that where you currently live?
Yes.
I was wanting to ask you, how does the landscape and the land you live on, the kind of weather it generates, and the trees and the rocks, how does that influence your writing?
Oh, it's a magic. It's I feel like I'm the blank slate and my environment is the pencil or the pen, or I feel like everything I see impresses on me. So today we live on an acre property, and there is a creek that runs through the backyard. And there has been a fight for the water rights from the Eastern Sierra Mountains that are about 300 miles north of Los Angeles. So Los Angeles, depending on who you ask, but most people would say that they stole the water rights from these mountains to feed LA. And that dried out the Owens Valley, and that put the people, the Paiute people that have lived here in a very precarious situation. They have a more native indigenous name, but I don't know how to pronounce it, so I don't want to butcher it. But tapping into this area, I see wild horses and arrowheads, obsidian arrowheads, where and there is so much magic here. There's the pine nuts. There's a couple of actually last summer I went to go get some water out of the creek that runs at the end of that property. Then the creek begins, because I'm really trying to reword myself so I don't ever say my backyard. It's kind of a funny thing. We're so used to saying, oh, the creek that runs through my backyard. It's like, this isn't my backyard. This isn't my land. This is where I live. And it's a really interesting way to keep moving my words. And so I'm writing about the water fight right now. I'm doing that research. Like I said, last summer, I went to go get a little bit of water out of the creek to water some butterfly bushes. And I leaned over and I was watching the most sacred act possible. It was a trout that had swum up from the lake, about 2 miles up from the lake, was battered and bruised, and was spawning as I watched it. So I've marked that spot with a rock so that I know that that's a holy space, because they come back to their same place.
Like
right?
the salmon.
Like the salmon, the trout come back to the same place. So, I mean, it was the most incredible, it was like, giving birth again, but watching it, but not just that, but watching how beat up this trout was. I mean, the abrasions that it had from jumping up waterfalls to get to its birthplace was, I mean, I keep writing that piece over and over because it's so hard to capture the majesty of a simple moment.
Wow. I'm imagining seeing it under the water, but it was shallow. It was shallow enough that you could see the details. And I guess they would have to spawn in shallower water, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and I couldn't understand why, because we have a little pool.
Mm-hmm.
There is a little pool that I have access to. See, it's very hard to say it like the right way, but we have this little pool that I have access to that I jump in, and whenever we go up on the wood planks that are next to it, the trout dart away from us. Anytime your shadow leans over them, because we backpack into the Sierra Mountains here. So I'm at 7,000 feet elevation, and we hike up to 10,000 feet elevation, and the peaks tower at about 14,000 foot elevation. Sierra means sawtooth. So it's a sawtooth mountain range that begins in Bakersfield, California, and extends for 300 miles long and 70 miles wide. So I'm on the eastern slope of this sawtooth mountain range, and the water and the creeks come down here, and then so when we are backpacking and I walk by these creeks, I get to watch all the fish, but they never want to have your shadow. So the fact that this spawning fish allowed my shadow, I knew something was up, but I didn't know what I was watching. And then of course, if you try to take pictures, they're fully camouflaged, because of course they would have to be camouflaged while they're laying their eggs. And then it was one of those moments where you want to take a picture of it, right? So I tried to, and then I turned away for a second, and the fish was gone, had let go of her life and was gone. And it was,
that's
and
the act, isn't it?
Yeah. And then and she was done fighting the stream, done giving birth, and let go. And I saw her go over the waterfall, and it was just like, oh my gosh.
To be there right in that moment.
It was so precious. So yeah, the land I live on definitely influences my creativity.
Well, I think there's something with this that wants to come through, because you're talking about that experience you had with the water on your land. And so I wanted to flip open your book to see, if I could say, well, what influenced maybe this part. Well, actually, I turned in to see the elemental beings. Yeah. And I know you didn't necessarily write this book here, right? Because originally it was the teen spell book, right?
Right. It was originally this book, which is a teen spell book. I thought you would enjoy this. I brought the actual copy that I wrote in when I was slashing and cutting away what was, because this was written 2001. So it's all warped and stuff because I took it in the bath with me. So I have tags and things, what to cut, how to rewrite things that were no longer serving, or like, oh, and here's the one you wanted, See the Fairies. That's the original page with all the markings, how I updated it for the Book of Spells to the page that you just,
I have a question. What kind of fairies are you referring to? Are you referring to pixies, or like the trooping fae, the city?
Well, I changed this to an update is with the elemental beings, because originally right. I broadened it because, one of the things that has really happened, and I'm catching up, and sometimes I'm even a little slow on this, is that the new witchlings have new words for things. And sometimes when we don't use their words, they don't identify with what we're saying. Sometimes they make the mistake in thinking we're not authentic, But it's like, I'm sorry, sweetheart, that word just wasn't invented yet. and you were in kindergarten when I wrote this book. So don't tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. So, but so now I changed it to elementals because I wanted to talk about the salamander and the fire and the sylphs and the gnomes and the rock spirits and the elemental beings and the flowers. And like just today, I walked down to the creek and I uprighted a picture, this thing that I have down there. I have like some artwork, that's down by the creek and around the aspen trees and stuff. And there was one that says, "Don't piss off the fairies." So it's my place that I go to, that I give them their offerings. It's their outdoor altar, and it just got uncovered from snow. And so I was looking around at all these rocks, and where I live, there's snow on the ground, but it's all melting around the rocks. And one of my native teachers is a native elder to the Tongva people, which are the people in the Los Angeles area. He would say, if rocks have an age, as in carbon dating, then they must be alive. The whole earth is alive. And when you walk outside right now, all the snow is melting away from the rocks because they hold heat. They hold heat, they have an age, they're alive. And it reminds me of a menopausal woman. I have heat, I have age, but I'm still alive.
One of my first experiences with a being who science wouldn't necessarily classify as alive, like rocks, was when I was walking in the Ozarks on my grandparents' land. They own 40 acres, and I would go through the forest, following the deer trails, going through the pine and the oak, and in the Ozarks, the clay is the soil is very rocky because it used to be as big as the Rockies, but it's like crumbled over time with glaciers and water. So it's like pile of like.
Did you have those the moraines, like the big rumbling of the, or is that mostly Wisconsin? Maybe I'm in the wrong part of the country.
Moraines.
That's when the big ice age, when it makes these rumbles and you get these big rocks that move. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I probably had a weird look on my face. No, I was just trying to think. I'm not sure. That's a good question. But there would be like lots of like red rock and red clay because there was a lot of iron, and sandstone, and also a lot of quartz. So there'd be like quartz in with the iron and quartz in with the sandstone. I remember I stopped. There was this interesting rock with moss on it, and it was kind of sparkly because it had some quartz and it was kind of red. And I was like, oh, I'm looking at it. And then suddenly it felt like it was kind of waking up.
Oh my gosh.
And becoming aware of me. And it was like, like, look at, because like I learned from, I can't explain it. It talked to me more with pictures than words.
No, I totally get it. I completely get it. I 100% get you.
And I was like, oh, well, who are you? It was like, oh, well, I come from inside there. And I'm like seeing this magma and pressing everything. And over the time, it like came up through the soil and the earth and everything.
It's history to you. That's so cool.
Told me it's history. And I felt like so young and minuscule and like, and to it, I was like a blip.
Right.
Like it was, like it normally wouldn't really notice the things moving around it per se, because its time is different.
Yeah.
And
but
so after that, I started becoming more interested in like, I started working then with like, and I was like maybe 10. So I started becoming more interested in like crystals and working with stones and that kind of thing.
That is so cool. My kids were raised in a Waldorf school environment, and they talk about the 9-year change. So you're saying 10, but somewhere between 8 and 10, where people often have an experience in that somewhere, usually between 9 and 10 age frame, where it awakens them to this thing that's going to draw them their whole life through. Like for me, my experience was similar, but it was finding that I was living on a land that my ancestors had lived on for over 200 years. And it was this moment of like, what? And then I felt like literally, as because I had a grandmother who was a psychic and a tarot reader, and she said, she would tell me and explain that once you opened that door, once you saw the spirit world, you couldn't unsee it, right? Like you've seen it now. And now the spirit world knows that you're awake. And so it's going to respond to the lights that are awake. And what happened for me is there was like 10 generations of ancestors going, look, there's one awake. Oh my God. And I was like 9 years old, and they all started talking to me, and I was literally we moved there to this one home, and it was in 1976, and an ancestor had built the very first adobe in Orange County on that same hill in 1806.
Wow.
Like the exact same hill, you know, with the river, like kind of that goes around it. Like the river, Santa Ana River, was heading kind of a westish north kind of way, and then it turned to the Pacific Ocean. And where it turned in that elbow was where I grew up. And right across the river on the other side was a native village. And so there was like always this idea of like First Peoples, you know, for me, that's what woke up in me first. And then having those experiences with the elementals, like I remember the first time I met Pan, I was, did you ever read the Celestine Prophecy?
A couple of times, okay. Yes.
So you know the part where they're talking about how you move your fingers together backwards and forwards to see the little filament of energy and aura energy?
I was worried I wouldn't remember enough about the book, but I remember now.
So I was doing that part, like that, looking for it, and all of a sudden it went green around my hand, like this bright, the same color I have of my tattoo, this bright green color. It started to wrap around my finger. So this is kind of part of that elemental experience. And in that moment, I saw Pan appear, like in my mind's eye was huge behind, like, I was like, oh, do you think I can see the spirits? And then Pan is standing there like, hello. You rang. I felt like I'd called in, you know, David Bowie with the Goblet King and not realizing I had said the right combination of words, you know, and then there was Pan, and I was like, oh, hi. And then just meeting the elemental energy of nature, you know, as that huge deity, and kind of, oh, it was incredible. And I remember, just as a quick thing, like the next time I needed to call on Pan, I did it. I literally took, because you have Orion, part of the Orion constellation as part of what appeals to you. That constellation was the first one I could recognize in the sky.
Yeah.
And so I had, remember when we used to have the little magnets of glow in the dark stars? And I remember putting up the constellation on the refrigerator and turning off the light. And for some reason, Orion and Pan and sensuality all mixed together in this really big moment for me. That was one of those cosmic moments when you feel like you've made love with the deity.
That is, I could tell some stories about that, right? But I probably should keep those off the podcast.
Oh, I'm so going to have you do that. Oh, that's it.
Or maybe the next time we chat. Yeah. But see, this is wonderful. We women need to have these conversations so we know we're free to be these. Yeah. So we're not weird. We're not crazy. We are powerful beings. There's power. There's power in our yoni. There's power in our womb, our fingers, our hair, everything.
Yeah, especially the hair. I have the hardest time not playing with my hair when I feel particularly powerful or particularly outraged or a lot of emotions. And especially because I have so much, it's like,
Ooh, I have two things to share. Sometimes I'll be starting to prepare all my items for the ritual, where did I put my sage? What cup do I want to use? What incense? And I'll put my hair up, right? To like keep it out of the way. Because like I might have to like, get my hands wet or whatever, and I'm like digging in counters under counters. But then like if I'm right in the middle of, I like instinctively I'm like whoosh, take my hair down.
Yes.
And I remember one time at work, I mentioned something because I have a great boss, and she lets us bend the rules to get the job done and help people at the library and put together good programs. Well, I slipped and said something, and she goes, "No, don't you say," and like her hair, she has this long gray black hair that comes over her face, and she's like, "Don't you ever say that." And I'm like, so there was that power, of her, like she like veiled and projected her voice, and
then did a big cousin, it like,
yes. And I don't think she even intended to, but that's what, but we women, we need to have that freedom to express ourselves like that. And for so long we've been told, keep your hair up. We're like, there was even a time we couldn't even show our ankles.
No, I know. I know. That's why I thought the pandemic was so funny, that it was like people couldn't get their hair cut. It's like, well, let your power grow, people.
Yeah. You don't have to.
I was like, okay, no, a lot of people are really tied to their particular haircut, but for me, it's all one length. So the more it grows, I just dye the end and have a little fun with it. But I just let it, I love playing with my power. Oh, and it's a secure. My boys had it as a security blanket. Like when they were young, they would sit on my lap and they would enshroud themselves in my hair. They would wrap themselves in my hair. So it's just.
So in this book, the Book of Spells, and I don't know if it would be in a cookbook, but do you have any information on beauty tips? Witchy beauty tips?
You know what? That was actually mostly in here that I cut out because it seemed superfluous. But since you've asked,
yes, do share.
I'm going to find the ones. See, I was crossing them off. It was crazy. Let's see, knowledge and self-knowledge.
That reminds me. For our listeners, I wanted to say how neat it is for Jamie to show up her the teen version of the book with all her scribbles and notes in it.
Yeah, it's like
that reminds me of college.
Exactly. My partner made me keep it. He's like, this is going to be so important. You should keep this. This is a sacred book. This is the one that you marked up. I was like,
well, I'm glad you're sharing it with us today. That's special.
At least I'll let him know this is what I have. So yes, make your hair grow long.
And you even got the pink sticky notes.
Yes, I have the pink sticky notes. So do you want me to read from this?
Please, because I would love advice to grow my hair out more.
Right. So, okay. According to dream books, hair represents power. Mm-hmm. That was where you mostly saw it at the time. Whenever you dreamed of your hair, this was written in, was published in August of 2001. So when I was writing this was literally 20 years ago. So sometimes some of the things that I was writing about, I mentioned about having a pager. Who has a pager now? You know what I mean? Maybe the antique stores.
No, we rarely have flip phones now.
Yeah, exactly. So the things that I would be writing about weren't appropriate for now. So I know there are other places that talk about hair representing power rather than just dream books. But at the time, that's what we had. We had dream books. That was safe. People thought those were safe. Dream books and astrology books.
And my first encounter with hair as power was from the story Samson and Delilah.
Think of the story of Samson and Delilah. That's my next sentence. You're just gonna take it right from me. Like, just kidding. No, I totally
agree. Like making my pouty face. Like,
I know. I'm like, no, don't do that.
Samson, okay, go ahead. I'll be quiet.
Samson was incredibly strong only when his hair was long. Consider what your motivation is to have long hair. Is it to feel powerful or beautiful, or is it something else? Keep this focus in mind. If your intent is clear, the result of your spell will be more satisfying. Also, this is definitely a case in which you need to make sure you have done everything on the physical level to manifest your wish before bother to casting the spell. Have you conditioned your hair regularly, brushed it every night consecutively for weeks on end without result? Or are you dyeing it 3 colors every other week? Another method for stronger hair is to pull a pick through it after conditioning while it's still in the shower. This way it will not cause as many split ends or need to brush it all day long, possibly pulling on already stressed out hair. And now I know that trick that oiling it with like you put the argan oil at the bottom of the ends, or you coat your whole hair in coconut oil and braid it when you go to bed at night. Like there's a few more things that we know about, but you try those things.
I'd rather use the coconut oil. I know my mom was saying in the 60s, sometimes they use mayonnaise. No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, would it work? I mean,
of course
the
it
oil
would.
and the,
it's oil.
Because I know vinegar is actually a conditioner too, and there's vinegar.
Yeah, and nettles vinegar is a great one, to cleanse out your hair. But in any case, so you've tried everything. Place your brush or comb, shampoo, and conditioner on your altar. So you put all your hair products on your altar.
What? I wouldn't have thought about that. Now I know that there's some women in the temple who have altars in their shower.
Yeah.
So could you do that too? Like if you had like a Aphrodite in the corner.
That's mine. I have the Aphrodite in the corner.
Oh, that's you.
That's me. I'm like, I got this one. Believe me. See, it's working, people. It's working. So yeah. So I have Aphrodite in the shower. But if I wanted specifically, for me, it's more like an image of body love. That's why she's there, and self-love, and even since we're saying it, even masturbation, she's right there. She's like, it's all about just the care and the loving of the body form.
This is why we have massage shower heads.
Yes, exactly. And so imagine looking up at Aphrodite going, that's right. That's me, baby. So if you had an altar in your shower, but it was specifically for hair, you know what I mean? It was intentional about that. Like maybe there was a stone that reminded you of that. So anyways.
Burt's Bees is like my potion. I'm like, oh, Burt's Bees.
Yeah, exactly. So sprinkle fragrance. So maybe you would have something like honeysuckle essential oils or and rose is what I suggest, or rose petals, and a circle around the hair products, and say, Aphrodite, Adonis, deities of beauty and love, bless this brush with gentleness of a dove. By my will and pure desire in the shower, infuse this shampoo and conditioner with power. My hair will grow stronger. My hair will grow longer. My hair will grow stronger. My hair will grow longer. Repeat this whenever you wash or brush your hair. Saying this incantation over your hair products can even work for a good hair day. Everybody needs an absolutely fabulous hair day once in a while. Maybe it's the day you know your boyfriend or girlfriend is going to break up with you. How do you know? It seems everyone else knows. Or maybe today is the day you're going to ask your crush to the dance. See, this was teen. But
right.
And maybe you feel lower than dirt and just need to pick me up. Regardless, take a moment to relax before you repeat the chant and really concentrate on your desired outcome. Also, when it is time for a trim, be sure your hair is cut during the new or waning moon.
Oh, I hadn't thought about timing my haircut. Well, okay, so on the new or the waning moon, because you're releasing?
That's how I remember it. But right now, I feel like I want to check my facts. You know what I mean? That's why I asked, in the meeting on Sunday that we had with the wise women of Mount Shasta Goddess Temple. I asked our Loon Ray, what is the right moon? I'm like, well, am I right? Like, let me ask her. Let me double check. Because I know
she's the priestess hairdresser.
Yes,
the hair priestess.
I want to double check with her because I've had so many people ask me about that spell. You know what I mean? So it's part of an idea of it might end up in another book. We'll see.
So I just had a cool visual, but unfortunately it was behind you. So the fire has died down.
Yes.
And so now every now and then a really bright cinder shoots up and goes swirling up. It's so beautiful.
Does it? I was thinking
we were talking about spells, and then we got these natural effects in the background in your stove.
It's just a little thing I like to do here and there.
It's the salamanders kicking up a party.
It's the elementals, exactly. That's why I changed that spell when I updated it, because I wanted it to be more than just the fairy energy. I wanted to increase, especially I've been more interested in the elemental energy that come from rocks and stones. You know, with the people from Iceland, you know, their elemental fairy type energy lives in the stones. So, you know, that's a new interest of mine that I want to read about and listen and hear stories about.
One thing I wanted to ask you, when it came out as the teen spell book, did you have any interactions with teen readers that stuck with you the most, I guess, is what I want to ask.
The one that stuck with me the most was when the book first came out, one the places that I would sell it at, that I would have interaction with readers, was at Celtic fairs and Renaissance festivals, Scottish Highland Games, Irish fairs.
I love Highland Games.
Yes. Oh my God.
Give me a pasty.
Oh my, no kidding.
Pasty.
I want a Guinness, but you can have the pasty. So in any case, I'm
actually to meet them at these fairs.
I got to meet them. I got to kiss them. You know, we had fun. We had fun. So in any case, I'm gonna put this on because I want a little bit more flame for us. So this one time it was at the in Nevada City, California. So it's on the western end of excuse me, don't want to burn myself. It's on the western end of the eastern of the Sierra Mountains, so it's on the west side. So it was a festival in the trees, in the forest, and it was 2 days. And so all the vendors had to dress in costume. So I had this costume that was made from a kind of like Shrek, honestly, kind of like Fiona from Shrek, a big green velvet 13th century sweetheart neckline, lots of boobage, you know, and this dress that just went woof, woof, woof when I moved. I mean, it was amazing. I loved it. So I was wearing that dress when this woman came and bought the book, or she bought it the first day. I don't remember what. I was wearing the black dress that was in Pyramid Collection that everyone had. It was this purple and black dress with the triple moon goddess on the breast. And then the next day, this woman came and I was wearing my green dress, so I was in more of my queenly role. And she came and she said, "Yesterday I bought your book. My son has Asperger's, and he never connects to anything or anyone. Now that he's a teenager, we can't reach him." And last night, it's like, it could still make me cry. It's been like 15 years. And she says, and last night he stayed up to the fire till midnight reading your book. May I please introduce you to him? Are you kidding me? I was like, oh, okay, no, you know? And so here comes this shy kid. And I was like, I am so honored to meet you. Thank you so much. And
wow.
So that is my like absolute number one. Magic reaches in ways that other places can't. It can reach you when you need someone to go inside and reach you and you don't have that ability to reach out and make that call. Magic can find you, that stone that found you, you know, and that found me. That's what happens. Magic
coming upon the trout.
Coming upon the trout, exactly. And so to me, this young man gave me like one of the greatest gifts is to know that that I created a vehicle for the magic that could reach him.
And that it reached a male teen too, because right, because of the Craft and all those movies at the time and the TV show Charmed, there was in the 90s and the early double S, so many young women and teen girls were flocking.
It was mostly, exactly. And so that's why when they actually, so you're talking about book covers. So this book, for those who are looking at it, it's all flowers. You can see mostly it's all flowers.
Yes, it has like a journal design with the blue and then the red spiny.
Do you remember Lady Coddington's book of Smashed Fairies?
Wait, I think I do. It's absolutely hilarious.
So yes, that you open it up and they're like,
fairy book.
This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. So I asked them though, I said, see this part with the dragons? And then the dragon is here again. I said,
the Celtic style dragon, yeah.
Please put that on so the boys can open it. Because if you don't have this dragon energy on this book, it just looks like a girly book. You add the dragons and it somehow just shifts that energy and adds a little bit more male to allow the young boys to pick it up.
How interesting that. So with magical publishing, it's not necessarily just because so sometimes in the publishing world there's these formulas of you got the romance covers or this style, and then the autobiographies and biographies are another style, but they're not really thinking about putting magic into the book cover per se. They're thinking about drawing people's interest, which is what you did. You wanted to make sure multiple teens were drawn to the book, but just really how much spellcraft goes into designing book covers for
at least I do.
Yeah, right. and makes me wonder how much Christopher Pinzak thinks about it. And
yeah, no, of course he does. Yeah, I mean, he would definitely think about it. And I'm thinking of Raven Grimassi was, I met him at a Pagan Pride Festival in 2003. We signed books next to each other and just made each other laugh. And so we became friends after that point. And even looking at his book, like I'm thinking of the cover of Spirit of the Witch, which was one of his books, and just the image that was chosen. I know that you get to a certain point and you're allowed to say, I think when you're a young author, or new to the publishing world, I don't know if you get as much say, but you should always try. Right? You should always ask and say, because as the author, you are the authority on your readership. So you're going to know what is going to draw them in.
Well, Jamie, I hate to bring this to a close. I have had so much fun in front of your fire having this chat.
Yes, I know. I agree. We could go on forever, but people might not want to listen to us for 4 hours. I don't know why or how, but it's possible.
Well, maybe you can come back. That would be wonderful. I'm sure we have plenty to talk about.
Yes, we do. We do.
All right. So I want to thank everyone for being here, watching the video, and listening to the Hypatia podcast. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day or night.
Wherever you may be in time and space.
Maybe in time and space.